Boxing truth here. A little boxing talk. Let's talk about Keith one time Thurman and how he's being abandoned, mistreated by guys that used to ride with him. Thought that he was going to be the next big American welterweight star. Guys were even on record that he would defeat Floyd Mayweather, but unfortunately for Keith Thurman, he never got that opportunity. Nobody talks about how Floyd Mayweather blatantly docked Keith Thurman. Nobody really talks about how Mayweather used Spence as a shield to avoid Keith Thurman when Spence was a prospect, upcoming, not proven, didn't really do much. Spence still has a lot to prove, and the truth is Keith Thurman is a more accomplished, proven fighter than Errol Spence is. Errol Spence is getting a lot of praise. He's pretty much been the new guy being pushed. Everybody's jumping on Errol Spence bandwagon. Everybody dick riding Spence all of a sudden. Everybody just hopped off the Keith Thurman hype train and now they're jumping on Errol Spence. They're just hopping on the next dude's saddle. All because Keith Thurman is saying something that is truth, that more likely the fight will happen in 2019. I've been saying this in my past videos about this topic. I criticized Errol Spence for turning down the Miguel Cotto fight, knowing that the Thurman fight was not available immediately and probably won't be available until 2019. He didn't want to sign with Golden Boy, whatever, okay. But now he has a fight coming up against Lamont Peterson. Not the biggest fight, not really a fight that, just an okay title defense. It'll be interesting to see how he handles Lamont Peterson and what's going to happen if Errol Spence goes life and death with Lamont Peterson. Then what are you going to say now? You're going to hype off, you're going to jump off the train, you're going to say he's overrated if he struggles with Lamont Peterson. That fight's going to tell us a lot about Errol Spence, and perhaps he may have a tough night against Lamont Peterson. If he's impressive, if he stops him in emphatic fashion like Lucas Matisse did, then maybe you guys have a legitimate claim that maybe this is the guy you should be riding with. Maybe he does defeat Keith Thurman. But until that is proven, right now, Keith Thurman is the more accomplished, the more proven fighter. And really, he should be on the pound-for-pound list, on Ring Magazine's list, instead of Errol Spence. Errol struggling with Brook, coming off a knockout loss, inflicting an injury, doesn't really prove that he's a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter. Let me tell you right now, I'm telling you guys, Errol Spence is lucky Kell Brook fought Golovkin before he fought Spence, because had Kell Brook stayed up in the welterweight division, he would have eventually fought Spence, and he would have fought him at his ultimate peak. He would have fought him undefeated. He would have fought him at his ultra high confidence. And I'm telling you, Kell Brook would have whooped Errol Spence. A pre-Golovkin Kell Brook would have been too much for Errol Spence. But a damaged Kell Brook, a psychologically damaged Kell Brook, still gave Spence problems. Still got outskilled by Kell Brook. So I'm not really that high on Errol Spence just yet. I still need to see a lot more. Keith Thurman to me is, I think he's a very talented fighter. It's too bad that, you know, he's with Heyman. He's inactive. Heyman has an issue with the networks, needs more dates to accommodate his fighters, and possibly that problem will be fixed maybe in 2019, unless these rumors are true that maybe Heyman is going to form an alliance with Dana White. Maybe Dana White is going to provide dates and a new network to promote some of his fighters on his shows, since it looks like Dana White, well, he's going to be promoting boxing shows, and it looks like Heyman is going to be that partnership where Dana White starts promoting some of Heyman's fighters for some of his shows, upcoming boxing shows, whenever his boxing promotional company materializes. So until that time, a lot of PBC fighters are going to be inactive. Now Thurman, he's got 2 belts, and he's only had 1 fight in 2016, 1 fight in 2017. So mandatory obligations are going to delay the Errol Spence fight. But here's the thing. He's already stated his intentions. He's going to take a tune-up fight or warm-up fight just to get out the cobwebs, test out the elbow. I mean, at least he's being real with you guys. The fight will happen, and it's going to happen when he's at his absolute best. I mean, don't you guys want this fight to happen when both guys are at their best? They have momentum going on. They made some title defenses. It's the same shit for every other fight that's being built up, that's being looked forward to. It's just part of boxing. The fight will happen when it's at its most ripe, when it's at its most juiciest. That's how promoters work, man. And the fight doesn't really make sense with Thurman coming off a huge layoff. I mean, don't you want Spence to fight the best version of Keith Thurman? And in 2019, those guys are still in their prime. Thurman will be just 30 years old. Errol Spence will be on the verge of being 29. So that fight is perfect. If that happens in that time frame, they'll be at their absolute peak. If both fighters keep winning, the fight will only get more riper, will only get more bigger, and perhaps, maybe there's potential it could be a pay-per-view fight. So there's still some work to be done. Thurman will have mandatory obligations in 2018. He's been champion for quite some time. He hasn't made a mandatory defense in I don't know how long, probably never. So eventually he's going to have to fulfill a mandatory request. And most likely the Shawn Porter rematch is going to occur, and that's a good fight for Thurman to get ready for Errol Spence. Lamont Peterson's a good opponent for Errol Spence to get more experience, because outside of the Kell Brook victory, what's really impressive about Errol Spence's career? He still has a lot to prove. Still needs to show that he didn't just beat a weight drain, psychologically damaged Kell Brook. He needs to show that he's truly legitimate, needs to defend his claim, needs to fight some worthy contenders. Lamont Peterson's inactive, but a solid opponent. But I'm just telling you guys, don't jump off the Keith Thurman bandwagon just yet. Keith Thurman is the A side of the PBC. He holds the keys to all the doors of where you want to be in the welterweight division, on the PB side at least. He's the A side. He's the A side in this fight. The fight will happen when he's damn well and ready. And he's being honest with you guys that it's not his to-do list immediately. But the fight will happen when it's supposed to happen. It would be nice if it happened in late 2018. But if you have to wait a year and some change for the fight, so what? They'll both still be in their primes. And if Errol Spence gets exposed before then what's the point of that fight happening if he's not truly legitimate? He should be able to defend his titles against Lamont Peterson, who he'll be favored against his mandatory defense of his IBF strap. I mean, those guys are not legitimate world beaters that are fighting for an eliminator for Errol Spence's strap. Thurman's gonna make easier work of Shawn Porter in the rematch when that fight occurs. I'm pretty sure you guys can see now, even if you felt Porter won the first fight, that Porter's performances are dwindling. He's not looking more impressive, and maybe you guys will reconsider that. Maybe Thurman was the true winner of that fight, because Thurman, he handled business against Danny Garcia. Didn't close the show as strongly, but I didn't know he was having an ailing elbow injury. So just don't count out Keith Thurman. Don't hop off the bandwagon just yet. To me, Thurman is the most relevant welterweight on the PBC side. He's the most proven. He's fought solid fighters. What he's done in his career is much more impressive than what Terrence Crawford has done, what Errol Spence has done so far, and yet this guy gets swept under the rug. Doesn't get no pound-for-pound consideration. Doesn't get the recognition of other fighters like a Crawford. Errol Spence is getting more recognition, being rated number 9 on Ring Magazine's pound-for-pound list. And yet, Thurman has a better resume than both guys. Has beaten more world champions than Errol Spence. Has unified the titles in one of the deepest divisions in boxing. And he's willing to fight the best when he's damn well good and ready. Thurman is the A side. Thurman has potential, from what I see, to being a bigger star. He just needs to fight a little more often. But I doubt he'll have more than 2 fights in 2018, unless the network issue of Heyman that Heyman has with the PBC gets straightened out. He needs more dates. Showtime doesn't have unlimited dates, so that's why a lot of PBC fighters are only fighting once, maybe twice, if that, in a year. So Thurman will hopefully get some more recognition in 2018. He'll have at least one legitimate fight in 2018. I predict most likely will be the Sean Porter rematch, and it's not a bad fight. A lot of people felt Thurman lost against Porter, but watch what happens in a rematch when Thurman makes easier work of Sean Porter the second time around. And watch what happens when he eventually fights Errol Spence. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.